All right. I'd like to start out by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The Last Supper and the Eucharist. Now, this is based off of a question that a brother asked on the comment board. I believe it was yesterday. And pretty much he was asking about the Last Supper and the Eucharist. And I pretty much told him in a roundabout way, or should I say, I just told him basically that that's a Roman Catholic dogma, and the Eucharist pretty much is a representation of the Son. And there's no such thing as the Last Supper. That's just a name that was put upon, that event that took place between Yahushua and the disciples. And pretty much it was the Passover that the Lord was keeping. It does say supper in the scriptures, but nowhere does it say Last Supper. It was the Passover that the Lord kept, and we're going to go through that Lord's will, because he was a representation of the Passover. He was the ultimate Passover, and his blood in these days today is going to pass over the elect. In other words, it's going to be in the elect's mind, which is the doorpost, and the judgment that's coming is not going to touch the elect of the Lord of the nation of Israel, but it will get the 2/3. Now, dealing with this Eucharist situation, that is a wafer that they do, a round wafer at that they make in the Roman Catholic Church, and then they put it into something called the monstrance, which is that staff with the circle and a half moon. And what they do is they put the Eucharist inside of the half moon, and they parade it around. And pretty much what it is ancient paganism of ancient Egypt, pretty much paying homage to Semiramis, Tammuz, Nimrod, and all those ancient mystery religions. And when you look and you scrutinize the Roman Catholic Church very closely, you'll see a lot of paganistic symbology and a lot of pagan rituals that have been incorporated into the Roman Catholic Church, and that's pretty much what the Eucharist is a representation of the Son. And that's why you have it inserted into a half moon, a crescent moon, which is a representation of the Son pretty much. And I meant to before I left the house, I meant to grab this site, on my other phone, because I have, a phone that's offline. So I wasn't able to really get the actual site. But as you can see here, it says Sun, a crescent moon manifested in the Roman Catholic Eucharist. And if you type that up on YouTube, so like I won't be able to give you the site name, this should pop up. All right. Now it goes on to say, the Pope lifts up an ancient symbol of the sun god, carried by a gold piece formed like the crescent moon in ancient Egypt. This was a symbol of the mother of gods, Isis. And it says the Pope has mixed ancient Egyptian paganism into a Catholic doctrine. And you can see it there. He's holding what they call the monstrance, and that round circular thing, and then underneath it you have a half moon, and you have gold strands coming out of that circular piece, which are representations of the sun rays, and pretty much years ago, I was doing some research, and I was going back and forth on a comment board with Abu. Y'all know the famous Abu. And I found this site. I don't know where this site is. I don't know if they took it down, but I found this site, which was actual Roman Catholic, you know, literature online. And and when you read through the literature, they had different sections and different numbers for the sections. And when you actually read it, it actually said that the Eucharist was a representation of the Son. And I told that asshole that, and what he did, I sent him the information. He said, "Oh wow, thank you. I didn't know that." And then he just basically brushed it off, like he was cut, but he acted as if, oh, thanks for the information, And I don't know to this day where it is, I wouldn't even know how to get to it, but it is a um, sun worship, and they said it right in their own literature. I wish I could remember what site that was, or what the what information it was, but I can't remember it. So you either believe me or you don't. You brothers that do research, you might run across it. Maybe you run across it and you see it for yourself. But let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and 15. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for you saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Lord spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. And when you look at the Pope's hat, not all it is the gaping mouth of a fish, which goes back to Dagon worship, which the priests of Dagon would actually put an actual fish on their head, the gaping mouth, and drape the rest of the body on their back. You can find pictures of this on the internet, and that was how they would worship, the god Dagon. And so the Lord said, don't make any likeness of any of this stuff. It says, and lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, should it be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy power hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. But the Lord hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as you are this day. But the point is that we're not supposed to do any of that. Matter of fact, it goes on to say, when you read further down, take heed unto yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of the Lord your power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, which he made with you, and make you a graven image, or the likeness of anything which the Lord thy power hath forbidden thee. For the Lord thy power is a consuming fire, even a jealous power. So we are not to partake in any of that these other nations partake in, because that's what they do. And that's why when you look deep into the origins, of these religious rites or religious dogma, you'll find out that it's steeped in paganism. It's deeply steeped in paganism, and this is why the Lord said this. Let's go to Jeremiah first, right quick. Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 1. It says, hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, learn not the way of the heathen. And the Lord means that. So learn not the way of the heathen, meaning don't be involved in anything that these heathens are involved in. And that's why you look at these you look at the different religions, and if the Spirit opens up your eyes, you could see in comparison to the ancient pagan rites of these different nations, you could see how they are steeped in pagan worship. But what does Jake do? They take it and they incorporate it into what the Lord gave us. And that's where the Most High was so mad. That was one of the main, one of the main transgressions that set the Lord over the edge, so to speak, was that worshiping of them idols. Because remember, the main thing that the Apostle Paul said was that you were carried away by these dumb idols, even as you were led. Because that was the main thing. I mean, everything else that these nations are doing is wicked, but that damn worshiping of idols, man, that's one thing that the Most High will not tolerate, along with many other things. They gave me a precept. Let me see what the precept says. All right, let's go to Leviticus 18:1. And Yahweh Bashem Yahushai spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your power. Not these other different deities or these other different gods. After the doings of the land of Egypt, and remember, there was paganistic rites going on in the land of Egypt. You had Isis, Horus, Set, and all of those different, the hawk head god, and, all them different pagan worship that was going on, the worshiping of the calf, and this is why Moses, Salaki Aaron in the wilderness, when the people said, look, man, make us a god, for this Moses, we don't know what happened to him. And what did he do? He told them to get all the gold off their ears, off their sons' ears and daughters' ears, and bring it all to him. Well, what did he do? He melted it and made a golden calf. And where did they get that from? They got that from ancient Egypt. So all of these different things you see going on are worships of these other nations. Remember, one of the main gods of Egypt was what? Ra, the sun god Ra. And this is why the Most High made mockery of the Egyptians by making it where they lived 3 days and 3 nights in the darkness. It says, after the doings of the land of Egypt wherein you dwell, shall you not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall you not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances. You shall do my judgments and keep mine ordinances to walk therein. I am the Lord your power. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And it goes on into a series of things, sexual acts that should not be done. In other words, homosexuality, which is or lesbianism, which is the same thing. Adultery, sleeping with your father's wife, whether she's your mother or stepmother or your sister or aunt, or anything of that nature. Because that's what them ancient Egyptians were doing in the other nations. So now, and there's many other scriptures you could go into dealing with sun worship. Matter of fact, there was a king. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I'll read that one and then move on to the next point. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Just bear with me. And Jake was going off big time, man, just like they're going off today. And this is 2 Kings 23:11, which, if I'm not mistaken, let me see who this was. The king that was the king, and the king sent them to gather him all of Judah and Jerusalem. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this was Josiah. Wow. You know what? I'm going to start at 1. Try to breeze through this. 2 Kings 23:1. I'm not sure if this was, yeah, it was Josiah, yep. And the king sent, and they gathered unto him all the elders of Judah and of Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant, which was found in the house of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And the king stood by a pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all their heart and all their soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people stood to the covenant. And the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest and the priests of the second order and the keepers of the door to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal and for the grove and for all the hosts of heaven, and burnt them without Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron, and carried the ashes unto them of them unto Bethel, because there was, before Josiah set up and reestablished the Passover and all that, you know, Jake was going off big time. They were heavy into idolatry. So what happened was, you know, when he read the book of the law and he saw these things, you know, he became sad, and he rent, you know, his clothes. He was, you know, he was sorrowful, you know. And what he did was he took everything that was being done and then just got rid of all of the wickedness and cleansed everything up so that they could keep the Passover. It says, and he put down the what? The idolatrous priests. Because the nations had idolatrous priests, but Jake was following in those same customs that the Lord said don't follow. You know, and we've been telling you for years that these other nations have a priesthood, a paganistic priesthood on the left-hand side. You know, Esau, the other nations, Ham and all that, they all have their own set of priests, their own regulations and rules, and their own statutes and commandments that they follow, their own paganistic rituals and customs that they follow. And that's what Jake was doing. So what Josiah did, he said he put down the idolatrous priests whom the king of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah and in the places round about Jerusalem. Them also that burn incense unto Baal, to the sun, see, and to the moon, and to the planets, and to all the hosts of heaven. So Jake was going off big time. That's why we read that the Lord said, when you see the sun and the moon and all that, don't be worshiping that. You know? Matter of fact, another scripture came to mind, Lord's will, I'm going to get to it. And you brothers could read more of this. I just want to go straight to the 11th verse. And he took away the horses that the kings of Judah had given to the sun at the entering in of the house of the Lord by the chamber, and Nathan Melech, the chamberlain, which was in the suburbs, and burned the chariots of the sun with fire. See? And what were those chariots of the sun for? To worship, or to have that sun worship. Now, going back to Deuteronomy 17 and 3, and have gone and served other gods and worshipped them, either the sun or moon or any of the hosts of heaven, which I have not commanded, and it be told thee, and thou hast heard of it, inquire diligently, and behold, it be true, and the thing certain, that such abomination is wrought in Israel, then shalt thou bring forth that man or that woman which hath committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even that man or that woman, and shall stone them with stones till they die. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death, but at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. All right. So that was the deal. So it was death for this worship. So really, what should be going on is that all these different religions of plantation Christianity, Roman Catholic Church, Islam, you know, all those different religions that Jake is partaking in, they should all be put to death according to the scriptures. You know, but we're not in that time. That's why the Most High is bringing a great judgment. These people talking about, these plantation Christians talking about the law is done away with, then why is the Lord going to bring judgment upon the earth? For disobeying what? His rules, his regulations, his statutes, his commandments. That's why there's a great judgment coming to this place, to this earth. All right, so like I said, there's many more scriptures we could go to dealing with the Eucharist and sun worship and all of that. And you brothers that want to get more deeper into it, you know, you could type in the title of that article and you could do your own research, you know, or you could just type in, you know, you could just type in the Eucharist and sun worship, and you have all, you know, all kind of stuff that's gonna come up, you know. And what I'm gonna do is I got a couple more points in that article that I'm gonna bring out real quick, and then we're gonna move on to the next part of the lesson, which is dealing with the Last Supper, or what they call the Last Supper, because there was no such thing as the Last Supper. That was just something that was incorporated. Let's see. Uh, it says you can see that, you can barely see it. See the crescent moon with the sun. It says, if you look carefully, you see the crescent moon in gold. They messed up. There's a typo. Holding up the round wafer inside the ring. Let's see what happens when the Islamic crescent moon gets the sun shining in the center of the image. Have you ever seen this gold image of the goddess Isis, the Egyptian mother of gods? Please look good. Then you have here, please take a good look, and you can see here, this is a representation of Isis. You see the half moon, and what do you see in it? The sun in it. And that's pretty much what the Roman Catholic Church is worshiping, which is they're worshiping the sun, you know, in the form of that Eucharist. And that's why they have it in a half moon, you know, that thing that's called the monstrance. And they take it around, they parade it around, and then they make people eat it. So what they're really eating is something to the sun god, and not to the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. An Egyptian image of Isis, the wife of the sun god and mother of gods. She holds up the sun in the form of a pearl carried by the crescent moon. The Pope needs to bow before the sun and the crescent moon. One way of doing so is to lift the gold stand over his head. And that's him bowing down to it without actually kneeling. And then when you go to the Roman Catholic Church, you know, when you first go in there, they're throwing up gang signs and bowing to each of those different images that they have on the walls. So the Eucharist is not biblical. The breaking of bread that Yahweh did with his disciples is actual bread that he broke with them, unleavened bread, which some people say different, but it's unleavened bread. And the wine that he drank with the disciples, the bread was a representation of his body, and the wine was a representation of his blood. And that is what he was telling the disciples and the people back then: unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you know, you can no wise enter into the kingdom, I believe he said, if I'm not mistaken. So that was what it was. And they thought he was talking about cannibalism, actual cannibalism, but he wasn't. He was talking about, you know, him giving up the sacrifice of his flesh and of his blood, you know. Now let's go to the part of the so-called Last Supper. It's not the Last Supper, it's the Passover. Let's go to Matthew 26 and 17. All right, Matthew 26 and 17. Let me just mark these. All right. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yahushua, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to what? To eat the Passover. So it wasn't no Last Supper, it was the Lord's Passover. And nowhere in the Bible does it say Last Supper. You're not going to find that. That is something that was made up in these different churches, especially the Roman Catholic Church, which is the main one pushing that. You know, the Eucharist, because it goes back to the idolatrous priests of the different Egyptian / Canaanite / Sumerian / Babylonian pagan worship. and they use it in the form of dogma as if that's, you know, what the Lord said. But the dogma is a dogma of the Roman Catholic Church, where they incorporated paganism. So he said, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? And he said, go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, the master saith, my Passover, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house with my disciples. See? So it wasn't no such thing as a Last Supper. It was the Passover that the Lord was keeping with the disciples. You know, the last Passover he kept with them on this side. And the disciples did as Yahushua appointed them, and they made ready the what? The Passover. Now jumping down to verse 26, and as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and blessed it and brake it. And he gave it to the disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body. So the bread was a representation of his body. So they try to use that in the Roman Catholic Church, but the ritual that they're going through is a ritual of idolatrous priests of ancient pagan Egypt. See? It says, and he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament. So you had the blood of the New Testament. The bread was a representation of his body. All right? For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. You know, and that's going to be some hellified wine, man. That's going to be some hellified wine, man. All right, now let's move on from there, and let's go to the book of, which we're pretty much going to be reading the same story, book of Mark, chapter 14 and verse 12. Mark 14 and 12. It says, and the first day of unleavened bread, when they've killed the Passover, his disciples said unto him, where wilt thou that we go and prepare that thou mayest eat the Passover? See? And he sendeth forth two of his disciples, and saith unto them, go ye into the city, and there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water, follow him. And wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the good man of the house, the master saith, where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared, there make ready for us. See? And his disciples went forth and came into the city, and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. So it's not no Last Supper, it's the Passover. The Passover, the Passover, the Passover. Not the Last Supper. You're not going to find the word Last Supper in it. You'll find supper, but you're not going to find the Last Supper, because it was the Passover, the Passover, the Passover. Get it? All right, now let's go from there to Luke 22, and we're going to read a little bit in Luke 22, because there's a lot of meat in this one. So we're going to start at Luke 22, and we're going to start at the 7th verse. It says, then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed. Get it? Got it? Good. It says, and he sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare the Passover, that we may eat. So what are they eating? The Last Supper? No, the Passover. That Roman Catholic dogma must be put away. Scriptures say you got to be born again. You know, so that must be put away. That's one of the things that have to be put away before you can start your mission, your journey of rebirth. You know, you got to cast off all that crap that you learn in these different religions and churches or whatever you was into. You got to cast all that off and be born again, as Yahushua told Nicodemus. And in that fashion, or in that manner, you will be able to start afresh and be able to build a proper foundation on Yahushua without all that other crap, all that untempered mortar, you know, in the mix. And that's what's happening. You have some individuals that come into they like this, they like that part, they like this part, they don't like that part, so they discard it. But then they'll some other shit that they learned in the world, they incorporate it to what they're learning now, you know, and that's the truth mixed with untempered mortar. And that's why those houses never last. They fall apart. Why? Because they're not built upon a steady foundation, which is that rock, which is Yahushua. And in order to do that, first of all, you have to be drawn by the Most High, chosen by Yahushua, which is chosen by the Most High also, and then inspired through the Holy Spirit to be able to get the true sense of this truth. So verse 9 says, and they said unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare? And he said unto them, behold, when you are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entereth in. And you shall say unto the good man of the house, the master saith unto thee, where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? So what are they having? The Passover, the Passover, the Passover. And he shall show you a large upper room furnished, there make ready. And they went and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the what? The Passover. And when the hour was come, he sat down, and the 12 apostles with him. And he said unto them, with desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. So this was the last Passover that was kept with Yahushua and the disciples. So it's in the it says, and with desire, there's a little precept there that says, I have heartily desired. So he was looking forward to this moment to have that Passover with his disciples prior to him going, because I don't know how much of that got caught because the stream got interrupted. But, you know, he said that he was heartily, you know, desirous to have this Passover with the disciples, because, you know, this is where he showed them, you know, the significance of his body and his blood for the Passover, you know. So he gave them that direction, you know. And all that the Roman Catholic Church did was they incorporated paganism and used that and tried to say that that's the body. Well, they say the body of Christ, you know, which is what a lot of these other, even these Israelite groups call the Lord's name Christ. They don't call him Yahushua, you know. Even among some of the ones that know that he's his name is Yahushua or Mashiach, they keep calling. They'll say Yahushua every once in a while, but then they'll always go back and say Christ, Christ, Christ. You know, when his name is Yahushua, Yahushua, Yahushua. So verse 16 says, for I say unto you, I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of the Most High. That's going to be the new Passover. It says, and he took the cup and gave thanks and said, take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of the Most High shall come. And he took the bread and gave thanks and brake it and gave unto them, saying, this is my body which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me. So when we keep the Passover, we would take the bread, the unleavened bread, break it and eat it, and then drink the yayan, you know, and then that would be a representation of the Lord's body. You know, not the idolatrous way that they do it in the Roman Catholic Church, where the Pope takes the monstrance, which is that staff with the round circle, with the rays coming out of it, with the half moon where they put the Eucharist in, and then he pushes it over his head in significance of him bowing down to the sun. It has nothing to do with that, what we're reading here in the scriptures. This is a union. You know, they call it communion. I believe the scriptures call it communion also. And that is that union between Yahushai and the elect. You know? And that's the representation of it. But they've taken it in the Roman Catholic Church and totally demonized it. Did a pagan worship on it, idolatrous priest style, and gave it to the people as dogma. And these people are eating it up like candy. You know, they have something called the liturgy, which is the procession where they get together, they start walking that thing around, and they marching and they doing all this other BS that mesmerize the people. You know, like a certain group that we know that they do that. You know, they like that, parading around and, that liturgy, and because Jake likes that shit. But the truth is plain and simple. All right, so it says, likewise also the cup after supper, saying that this cup is a New Testament in my blood, which is shed for you. So in essence, what happened? Yahushai became that lamb, that was sacrificed for us. That lamb without blemish, without spot, that was sacrificed for us for the remission of our sins. And that lamb was foreordained before the foundation of the earth to go through that. And this is why, when in Isaac's case, Isaac was about to be sacrificed by Abraham, which the Most High told him to do. And what did Isaac say? Father, we have the wood, we have the fire, but where is the lamb? He said, where's the lamb? Because he was the lamb. Because Isaac is Yahushua, if you can understand, or if you can receive it. And what happened was, the Lord didn't allow a sheep to be sacrificed there, or lamb. What happened? They found a ram. Because eventually that was symbolic of what he would have to go through later on when he came back as Yahushua. When he was led as a lamb to the slaughter, where he was beaten, and eventually crucified, and his blood shed, and he was put to death. That was the ultimate sacrifice for us. So now let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 6. It says, your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? Purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump. See, as you are unleavened, for even Yahushua our Passover is sacrificed for us. Yeah, because there wasn't no leaven in that Passover, because that was the first day, of the feast of unleavened bread. And Yahushua is that unleavened bread. Let's read that again. He said, purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened, for even Yahushua our Passover is sacrificed for us. Verse 8, therefore let us keep the feast not with old leaven, see, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Because this truth is practical, So I got one more precept, and then we'll close the lesson out there. And like I said, you brothers want more information, you know what to do. You know what to do. This is 1 Corinthians 11:23. For I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Yahushua, damn man. All right, let's read that again. For I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Yahushua, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given the thanks, he brake it and said, take, eat, this is my body, which broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. Which he said that. Let me see. There's a precept there, number 8:24. Or for a remembrance. Yeah, and that's what we're supposed to do as a remembrance. That's why at the Passover, what do? You know, when we go through the Passover or the Sabbath service, you know, when we get to a certain point where the old man, yeah, where the old man is it, or is it the young man? I think it's when the old man's closing out. Yeah, we all take the bread and break it, eat it, and then drink the wine in remembrance of Yahushai. You see? So that's, you know, that is the remembrance of him, you know, taking the unleavened bread and the wine as a symbol of his body and of his blood, as a remembrance of the sacrifice that he did for us. Okay? It says, after the same manner, also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as you drink it in remembrance of me. See, he keeps speaking about in remembrance of him. So this is symbolic. But what they're doing in the Roman Catholic Church has nothing to do with this. It seems like well, wait a minute, they're eating the bread and they're drinking the wine. Yeah, but look at the procession. Look at the ritual that's being performed prior to them eating. So what they're doing is they're praising the sun god and causing people to eat that Eucharist and drink that wine to who? To the sun god, that ancient Egyptian idolatrous priest worship. You see? It says, for as oft as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Lord's death till he come. All right, and that's what we do. You know, we're showing the Lord's death till he comes, because that was a very great thing that was done. Just bear me 1 second. I'm just looking for this one precept. Just bear me. Let me just check something real quick. All right, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 10. This is beautiful. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 14. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry, because these same rituals that you see done today were being done back then. Remember, it goes back to ancient Egypt, ancient Sumer, ancient Babylon, you know, the ancient Canaanites. It says, I speak as to wise men, judge ye what I say. And if you're wise men, you know, if you're a prophet, you're going to acknowledge these things. The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Yahushai? The bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Yahushai? For we being many are one bread and one body. For we are all partakers of that one bread. Behold, Israel after the flesh, are not they which eat of the sacrifice partakers of the altar? What say I then? That the idol is anything? Or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything? But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, see, and not to the Most High. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils. See? Why? It says, do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? Remember, you had the image of jealousy where the Lord was angry and upset about. So we are not to do those things. Let them heathens do that. That's what they do. You know, because the Most High is not with them. You know, so forget, you just forget about them. All right. So pretty much, I mean, that's it. I mean, we could go on and on with different points different scriptures and stuff, but the point is pretty much made. There's no thing as the Last Supper. All right, it was the Passover that the Lord held with his disciples. As we went through those precepts, and we found out that Yahushua is our Passover. You know, we found out that the so-called Eucharist, which the word Eucharist means good charity. EU is good, and Charisto is charity. All right, we found out that the Eucharist, that wafer, is a wafer in adoration or worship of the sun god. That's why it's placed in something called the monstrance. The monstrance is a gold staff with a round. It's round at the top. It has little strands of gold sticking out of it as a representation of the sun. It has a half moon in the center of it, or at the bottom of it, where the wafer, which is the sun god, is placed, and it's put over the head of the Pope in obedience or worship of the sun god, as the idolatrous priests did in the past when they were worshiping the sun, which goes back to ancient Egypt. So forget about all that, all that stuff. The scriptures have nothing to do with that ancient paganism, except that it condemns it. So with that, I pray that the brother's question was answered. I pray that you brothers have been edified. And to the next time I say shalom.